Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins from My Self-Reliance, and it's so good to be with you tonight. I'm joined by the amazing Zev from Warrior at Law, and tonight we have a sterling conversation to share with you and some huge announcements. So we're going to make those announcements a bit later on tonight. But first of all, welcome, Zeb.
Thank you. Thank you for having us come along tonight,
Hello.
Kelly.
Yeah.
And, always,
Um,
always happy to participate in any of the things that you're putting on with my self-reliance. As guys are doing a lot of great
Sorry,
work.
Zeb. I've just lost sound for a second. I'm just going to change to my speakers. Okay. Can you hear me all right now?
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. And there's a lot of people joining us in the chat room who are keen to hear what you have to say. But we haven't planned a conversation tonight, except for some questions that I have for you. Now, it is an interesting time of the year that I've brought you on. But before we jump into the here tonight, who haven't been to a My Self-Reliance Tuesday night chat before, we're a community that started back in 2021 doing these Tuesday night conversations when we were all in lockdown. And we got started just really as a concern for one another and, how we can be more self-reliant. And so we have been running events and workshops now for the last 3 years, and every year we have a huge summit in Kenthurst. Last year, Zev came along and spoke at our summit. He's also been to our Tuesday night chat before, and the last time we had him on, we had him alongside of Michael O'Neill, and so it's such a coincidence, it's so opposite sides of the board that you and Michael sit. He's running for the Senate, and you're like, yeah, I'm not voting. And so we had you both on the same evening. And only 2 weeks ago, I had him on an interview, and then yourself again tonight. So we like to do this, opposite sides of the board kind of conversations. But that's all good because there's all kinds of ways that we can really be free, and it's really up to us to take that initiative in whatever makes sense. So I just want to get started by asking you, Zev, and I know some people are popping questions in the chat, which is really, really great. But we are in the middle of an election, and everyone's going to go to the polling booths if that's what they choose to do this weekend. But tell us why not vote?
Look, for me, I don't believe that we have a properly installed or initiated government where Parliament's full of liars and thieves and pedos, and I'm happy to say that and call them out for what it is. We wouldn't have a 99-year suppression order against the 28 if we didn't have a heap of pedos in Parliament. They're liars and thieves. This is well known to everybody, and I simply won't participate in the fraud until we get rid of the BS two-party system and the other parties get a fair crack. And if we do some homework on the Westminster system that Parliament's based on, we're not meant to have parties. So it's meant to be done by agreement and negotiation, not by bullying. And there's been many a report recently. The Juice media, who are fantastic at taking the piss out of government legislation, recently did one exposing what the two major parties are doing. They're basically legislating to make it somehow legal, to make it tougher for any of the parties that aren't Labor and Liberal to compete with them or to get votes, to campaign, how they can gain money, how they can spend money, capping how much they can spend, where they can get their donations from. Meanwhile, they lifted the cap for Labor and Liberal and let them run wild with it as a way of legalising more corruption and silencing the competition in an attempt to do it legally. And this is another bill that was rammed through Parliament without debate or discussion, like many others have been done. And we all know that they're fraudulent people that are sitting there that do not have the people's best interest at heart. Clearly, there's a few goodies like Michael that you had on that actually are trying to do the right thing for the people, but those at the top clearly aren't. And
Mm.
government's meant to govern the companies and corporations for the benefit of we the people. And many, many years back, that got flipped on its head. And we now have governments all around the world governing we the people for the benefit of their corporate donors and companies and corporations and the likes of big tech, big business, big pharma, etc. And I can't with good faith or conscience participate in that. So not encouraging anyone to vote or not to vote. That's your call, guys, however you want to do that. If you believe it's going to have some effect, by all means, I don't believe it really changes anything, because one of my theories on why I don't vote is if voting actually changed anything, it would be illegal. They're not going to give
Mhm.
the people the choice to decide who's in charge. And if they did, then the voting would work. The last election, the major two parties lost more than a third of the primary vote, which should have asked one of them out of parliament. It doesn't work that way because of the way that's all stacked and rigged and always goes Labor or Liberal. For 100 years, we've only had Labor or Liberal in power. I think it's time for change and tell the Australian public, and obviously guys on this call are a bit different, but till the masses, so to speak, wake up and stop putting one of those two, I won't participate in the voting. I just won't. I don't care about the fines. I know I can beat them in courts. I don't care. I just won't
What do you
participate.
say when I've heard it said that if you write on the ballot paper that um, and make it null and void that there is none to do my will,
Yeah,
um,
no suitable candidates. Yeah,
no suitable candidates to do my will, then they can put that vote aside, and then they don't. That if enough people did that, that it could they could swing the voting system, and they wouldn't be able to run again. Is that a truth statement, do you think?
I highly doubt it, because I think if you put no, there are no suitable candidates to represent my will, or words to the effect of, some twat from the AEC is just going to tick Labor or Liberal on it, and it's going to go to one of them anyway. I mean,
Mm.
we're the only nation in the entire world that votes with a pencil. Now, if that doesn't scream dodgy as hell to everybody, I don't know what does.
Yes, and you don't have to show your ID.
So there's a lot of issues and problems. We've lost your camera there, Kelly, and a lot of issues and problems. There, you're back now. A lot of issues and problems with the room and the level of corruption that is allowed for that, to ensure that Labor or Liberal get in every time. And every
Mm.
time it's like, oh, Labor are no good, we're voting Liberal. Liberal are no good, we're voting Labor. And as I say this to many people, they're the left and right wing of the same diseased and corrupted bird. It doesn't matter if you're left or right, it's the left and right wing of the same thing.
Yeah.
That's got to go before there's any hope. And until we start seeing all our corrupt and criminal politicians actually jailed and charged for their many crimes, it's not instilling any faith in people like me in any form of official or proper government, while there are literally criminals sitting in Parliament walking free. I mean, look at Dan Andrews. They finally got him in now for the running over the kid on the bike, because someone from the Victorian Ambulance Service actually released the call where he goes, "Yeah, I think we've hit the bloke." And now he's in court for it. I'm willing to bet you my left arm, Kelly, he doesn't see any jail time. No secret, Dan Andrews would survive about 30 seconds if they ever locked him up with what the inmates would do to him. And many
Yeah.
of us would love to see that happen for what he did to the state of Victoria. So, look, until we start seeing these politicians actually held to account for their crimes, jailed like the rest of us, whatever happened to are all equal before the law. They're no more equal or better than any of the rest of us. They need to be held to account. Until that happens, I won't participate.
I will say, though, I'm really pleased to see the number of people who are stepping up to run for their local area from the freedom parties, and really good people who are that we, who are brave enough to put their hand up and to say, all right, I'm going to run. And so nothing taking away from those people.
Look, as I
So,
said last time you had me on with Michael, it's like, hats off to you if you want to go and play in that Lions den. I choose to play
mm,
from outside of that den, and look, each to their own. We hit them
each
with
to
a
their
thousand bullets from a thousand directions. They can't stop all of us, whether you're doing it from running for Parliament in that corrupt and cesspit of a system, or whether you're doing it from well outside of it, like people like myself do. Each
yeah.
their own. And that's for all the individuals here to work out what's better suited for them as to how they want to go about doing that.
So say a little bit more about that then. How, when you take yourself out of that system, how do you feel that, as people do that, that we're shifting the tide that way, making a difference?
Well, look, the government needs us to a large degree a lot more than we need them. And as more and more people are waking up to that, people are opting out, as I call it, from as much as they can with the public or the government or state-run systems. And we're all shifting to ways of doing this privately under private contracts and agreements that are between we all the living. We're removing that person or ens legis creature or creature of statute being the person, which is, I'd like to think anyone on the call tonight's aware that the person's a creature of statute, where we as the living are men and women of God or nature, as completely different jurisdictions. So once we start to more understand in here who and what we are, we can move away from that. We can just simply say no thanks. We don't have to accept these offers. The thing is that when people all go, I want to get in the private and avoid all of this, what people miss and don't realise in doing so, that comes with a much higher level of responsibility and accountability, because there are no government assurances, insurances, benefits or privileges. It's on you when we do things in the private. And to escape that, we need to learn how that works a little bit better so we don't get ourselves in trouble. And we can't mix the public and private, or the public and private highways, as we often refer to them. They don't cross or intersect at any point. But I can travel on either highway on any given day if I choose to, because that's my right to choose. And I'm like a broken record about our rights. It's not a right unless we get the choice as to when and how we exercise that right. So today, I might choose not to exercise my rights to operate privately, and I might go and do something in the public. Tomorrow, I'm going to exercise my rights to do it privately, and that's my right to choose when and how I exercise those rights on how to opt out. And it does take a bit of learning and to get your head around it, because all of us have been indoctrinated since the day we first went to school into the system, to some degree. And it takes a lot to unlearn and relearn to be able to shift out of that. It's not a quick and easy process to do, because you've got to undo 40 or 50 years of life experience and learning to be able to, opt out of that. And that can be really tricky and very confronting for some people to do. They have to admit that I believed the lie for however many years. I was a part of that, which I'm now opposed to. And that for some people is too confronting. So they just go back to doing it the public because it's easier. And this is by design. They've made it that way for us to challenge or, take on the system, which I find is like, getting in the ring with Mike Tyson. We don't want to be fighting them. We can just not get in the ring. It's a much easier way of doing it. The art of fighting without fighting. There's no fight to be had. You can't have an argument with me, Kelly, if I just get up and bugger off. It takes two people for that to occur. If I'm not participating, it can't happen. And this is how I treat things with our government and the system, is just, guys, I'm not participating. You can't compel me or oblige me to do so. And when we learn about the law and our rights as to why and how they can't do that, they tend to leave people like me alone. I'm in the too hard basket nowadays. It's a great place to be.
Now, there was a terrible example made of someone who is trying to opt out of the system, and it was on the news. There was two people sitting in the car and saying, you don't have a right to the police to pull me over, and basically they kept, I guess, badgering the police, and they got hauled out of there because they were talking about their rights. That's probably not the way that you recommend to go about it when you set off on this.
Look, it's got to be done correctly. And look, sometimes if you're dealing with arrogant, belligerent police, it doesn't matter what you say. If they're determined to arrest you, they're going to arrest you for something. Yeah, you can beat it in court later and have the charges drop, whatever. It doesn't take away from the event occurring. We need to find better ways rather than, and I say this all the time to many, many people, Kelly, the people who stuff up these horrific videos we see online of people having their windows smashed and being reefed out of their cars. These are the idiots who are like, well, the police, and you can't touch me. I'm a living man and I know my rights, but they don't. They have no idea what their rights are. They can't articulate them in some sort of a calm fashion. And all they're doing is pissing off the police, which when they get pissed off enough, they resort to violence. We all know this is how it works. Don't piss them off. You've got to remain calm. You've got to pass that attitude test and hope the police pass the attitude test that you're dealing with as well, that you're able to be calm and civil people and have some sort of a conversation. And instead of making claims like, I'm a living man, you've got no authority, ask them, where is your authority derived from? Where is
Mm.
your source or head of power or authority coming from? And can you prove it? Because you've just made the claim. So it's the art of asking questions too and not making claims. And we can ask the questions in a way that invites a response, which is usually done in some form of a claim, which now, pursuant to our ancient maxim of law of the onus or burden of proof lies on the one making the claim, you've just tricked them into making a claim by answering one of our questions. Now they've got to provide the proof of it. And if it's on body worn camera and we're all recording it, when that goes to court, it generally doesn't bode too well for the other side when we ask, well, where's the proof of your claim?
Right. Now I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and there's some questions coming through there, and I have some things that I want to get to with you. But while we're on this, and this might be a good place to ask this question, Irene says, I'm concerned with the magistrates now asking if we need to be assessed by a psychiatric nurse, as was in the court I attended as a support for the friend. The magistrate did not like the question we asked, so they frightened us to silence, or at least not to speak this way. Your thoughts, please.
Look, one of the best recourses, or it's not the best, but one of the more common recourses, I should say, of the court when we challenge them on their lawful grounds, and we can display that we may have some idea of what we're talking about. Rather than establishing or rectifying the legal argument or providing proof of, they will challenge our mental health and say that we're not fit. If you do have ongoing battles with the court, I've actually recommended this to a number of our members, is to go and see an independent, not a court-appointed one, because the court-appointed ones will say, yep, Zev, you're crazy, mate. I'm sorry, that's can't convince me. Go and see an independent psychologist, psychiatrist to write you a clean bill of mental health. So when it is brought into question, you can go, look, we saw this one coming, Your Honour. I went 2 weeks ago and I went and spoke to psychiatrist to see if there was any mental health issues. And here's the document saying I've got a clean bill of mental health. It cuts them off at the knees before they can go forward. And when we're dealing with the courts, the government, the system, the establishment, whatever people want to call it, yeah, you've got to treat it like a game of chess. Now, sadly for the establishment, I'm very well versed with their playbook and their moves, and I'm quite a good chess player. So as a general rule, I'm 10 moves ahead, regardless of which piece they move where. And this is the kind of mindset we need to adopt when taking on this system, because they have an unlimited amount of resources, blatant corruption, and they just, at the end of the day, they just do not care unless we can really get it honed in, and the argument and the legal points, preferably with some sort of case law attached to it, to show it's already been determined that this is the case. And only then do they go, okay, but to do that, we've got to, one, know who and what we are, and we have to demonstrate that we're competent to manage our own affairs. Otherwise, we're seen as this child or infant or a person, and the court will then mandate that we're going to manage your affairs for you because you've just demonstrated you're not fit or competent to manage your own affairs. This is often a confusion thing called the age of majority, which has nothing to do with how old you are. People go, oh, I'm 18 or 21, I've reached the age of majority. Are you competent to manage your own affairs? Do you actually comprehend how all this works? No, well, then you have not reached the age of majority. Some people may get there at 21, good luck to them. It might take the rest of us until we're 50 or 70 or whatever age through learning this to be able to say that we are competent to manage our own affairs, and I can demonstrate that. And that's when they back off and leave you alone. But again, we've got to start asking questions and stop making claims and be prepared. Go and get your clean bill of mental health if the courts are questioning that sort of stuff. So you can go, well, I've actually been and done that, and here's the paperwork that says, no, it's not the case, I am sane. It just removes another argument for them to throw at you because you've got the preemptive proof of claim. Again, I'm sane, we'll prove it. Okay, here's the documents from a qualified psychologist.
And that's the good thing about going to court, is that you always learn from the previous experience what to be prepared for next.
Come back stronger and wiser, regardless of the outcome. If you're going to court for a win or a loss, you're in there with the wrong mindset. If I'm going to court, it's for shits and giggles, entertainment and education purposes, because I really don't care what they say or do. And I'm not a criminal. I'm never going to be in court for anything I'm looking at jail time for. I'm happy to go to court for not voting, for being 3 kilometres over the limit, or a parking ticket, or some stupid COVID fine, or whatever. Like, they're not jailable offences. I really don't care. Let's go and have some fun. Let's see what happens. Let's learn.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some excellent experiences that have come out of that. So Zev, Leanne wants to know, have you had success discharging debt based on the fraud of banks using our signatures as financial instruments? 3 letters of process maybe have.
Look, the three-letter process thing has been done to death and done poorly by too many idiots or con men out there selling bad processes to people going, here, try this. Hasn't been tested and proven. It's very rare that we actually get the success over that on those grounds. But there are other questions that we can ask the bank to provide proof of for that, pertaining to the securities created off that signature, so to speak, such as what of equal and equitable exchange did I receive in return for that contract? You got numbers on a screen. You didn't actually get the money that they claimed they were loaning you. And the banks often have a hard time proving the existence of a loan if you request the accounting records showing where the original transaction of this claimed loan originated from, whose funds were used for that loan. Now, it's no secret, it's not the bank's money they use, it's your money because you create the credit with that signature. You're the security.
Right.
So that's a very long question to unpack in detail, but as a general gist, rather than doing three-letter processes, a simple request for the accounting records to be able to do it that way to show, well, where is the original accounting transaction referring to that verifies the loan? Where did the money originate? What is the provenance, not providence, of the origins of the funds?
Right. Right. I hope that answered your question, Leanne. Come back if you want to ask another question regarding that. And I know I've missed some conversation in there, people commenting on the election that we've just talked about. David said, and bank credit is not the same as legal tender.
No, the banks under international banking laws actually are prohibited from loaning credit because it's not theirs to lend, which is pretty much what they all do. So
now I have a question around PMAs. So first of all, I want to know, I was going to ask this question earlier, actually, people in the chat. If you have intend to vote and are going to or already have voted, put a Y in the chat. And if you intend not to vote this weekend, then put an N or a no in the chat. Wow.
no,
We get 2 yeses and 3 yeses.
A mixed crowd.
We have a lot of no's, though. There's a lot of no's. Yep. Got any, Barry? Do you know what the fun thing is, Barry? Alongside you and a lot of other people, there's people who are running as a candidate, but also very well versed on issues of common law and yeah, there's a few people like that I know very well who are quite well educated in both sides. Okay, so very good. Thanks for everyone for maybe CJ or Andrew can count up the yeses and the nos and let me know how we polled. So very interesting, a bit of a mixed crowd in there, and everyone's. Thank you for answering, everyone. So then on to PMAs. I know this is an area that you're very, one of your babies that you like to man into this area, the PMAs. Tell us the type of people who come to you for PMAs.
It's really wide and broad. We have, people that might want to run some yoga and breathwork workshops under that. We have other people that might be in building, construction, mechanic, farming, food. Basically, any goods or services that you want to do without the government overreach can be done as your projects and activities under the PMA. And the myths around the PMA, I'm a member of those PMA, so I can go and do whatever. No, it's not how it works. The real strength comes from having your own PMA, and as a member of someone else's, you're only protected by that PMA while you're actively engaging in the projects or activities of that particular PMA. And the best example of that is our footy players. Yeah, off the field, they go and have a drunken brawl. They get charged in criminal charges for assault like the rest of us. But on the field, they could punch the living crap out of each other all day long, and all they get is a slap on the wrist and told you can't play footy for 2 weeks. Why? Because they're actively engaging in projects or activities of a private club, membership, association, whatever they're set up as, in which case they come under the rules of that association or club, society, whatever they want to call it. So we're doing the same. Again, we're all equal before the law. Why aren't we doing this sort of thing too? But to benefit people rather than to our detriment. So we get a very wide variety of people coming to want to do PMAs. And one of the big things to say with the PMAs is, look, there has to be some benefit for your members, even if your members have to pay membership or pay to access those benefits that you're offering, or goods or services, whatever it is that we're doing some sort of an exchange of value on. It's different for everybody. And this is why we tailor them. No, our PMAs, like a large portion of the body of the documents, yes, that's the same. But there are certain sections that we really do a lot of time and effort on with all of our members to make sure this is tailored for your particular needs. Now, someone that come to us that wants to do a surf school under a PMA, how we set that up for them isn't going to work for someone who wants to do fresh produce or food or a yoga or breathwork style thing. These are different and need to be tailored to suit the needs of what it is you want to be able to achieve, what projects and activities you're running with that PMA, what benefits are your members going to get, and what are you giving back to the members in community for that? What benefits are you able to offer or provide? These are all important questions we like to ask people so that we can tailor it to what it is they're trying to achieve. So it's a very broad variety of all sorts of different people that come to us wanting PMAs for different projects, hobbies, activities, and altruistic purposes, which we're happy to help people do. If it's coming from the right place, it's got to come from in here. And it's not a financial thing. It's an energetic thing of what are you giving back? How are you able to help?
Have you seen people who are take on a PMA and then they've had an issue that's come up in terms of they've needed to use their PMA to cover themselves for, some protective reason that's.
But we have a few minor things with some of them, and they're usually pretty easy to deal with. If it's one of our PMAs, yep, I can say they're created and constructed properly and correctly and they're effective. But it comes down to then how are you operating or running the PMA? And if you're doing that correctly within the guidelines of the Articles of Association, you're going to be covered. If we step outside of those rules that we create for ourselves, which are separate to the statutes and legislations, we end up back in the public with the statutes and legislations. The PMA, you can't write a PMA that says as a member of Zev's PMA, it's okay to rob banks and punch people. No, it has to be lawful. But we get a choice as to which laws we're operating with and how and why that works. And again, it comes with a high level of honour and integrity and accountability and responsibility. If we're maintaining that, there shouldn't be problems with the PMA. We only have the issues with people running them when they're not running correctly, they're operating without honour and integrity, or they're causing harm, loss, damage, or injury to others, all of which are big no-nos under our Articles of Association that dictate the rules that we consent to operate and live by. So generally speaking, Kelly, it's don't be a dick and you'll be okay. It's really not that complicated. And for most people operating a PMA, I'd like to think that, 99% of our members that have come to us for one of those or looking at doing so aren't criminals, they aren't engaging in nefarious activity. And they're generally coming from a good heart space, trying to do good things and the right things to help and benefit people and the community, in which case there generally shouldn't be any issues with the running of a PMA if we keep it to the rules of. It's only when we step outside that there's going to be issues.
And generally speaking, too, the people who join the PMA also want the best interest at heart for the people who are running it.
Yeah, the members, when they sign up to a PMA, have to do a member agreement where they agree to things like honour and integrity in operating with and not to have any intent or intention by action or inaction to cause any harm, loss, damage or injury, which let's face it, this is how most of us live anyway. It's not a big paradigm shift for people to get their head around. Isn't that what most of us are all about anyway? So it's really not that hard to do.
Yeah. But but it's on one hand, it is easy to say that this is how we should be living and we should, honor and respect one another. But have the PMA for, and that, so tell us why. Why have a PMA then? Like,
Well, 'cause we need proof of claim. So if you're going to say, I'm not part of your system, well, we need a system. We need something, some form of governance if we're not accepting what's been offered by the government. So we create our own. And that's really the benefit, is the ability recognised by our international laws and treaties and covenants and principles, which I've included in our PMA, says we have the rights to autonomy and self-determination. We have the rights to self-governance. And again, it's on our rights. It's our right when and how we choose to exercise those rights for the benefit of we the people and for our communities and our members. And we're all got, small groups, whether they're social, community groups, self-reliance, like what you're running, Kelly. And we generally, most of us, if we're running or doing that group, we try and lead by example. We try and do the right thing by our members so that they can do the right thing by. And it's like ripples throw a rock in the pond, and the ripples move outwards from that centerpiece, which should be the founding members of the PMA, and that emanates outwards. So everyone's working on the same page, so to speak, to try and achieve a similar goal. And for most of us, we just don't want government overreach. It's not required or needed. None of us asked for it. None of us want it. None of us agreed to it. So there's some ways of just simply opting out and doing it another way.
but that, and it seems to a reason why it needs to be written properly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Look, the amount. One of the reasons that inspired me to create our own PMA was I was absolutely disgusted and appalled at the substandard level of just horse shit and word salad getting handed around for crazy amounts of money to many of the people in our, freedom movement, for stuff that just doesn't work, that's got no legal backing, no legal standing. It references legislative acts and instruments, putting it back in the public, and I was just like, it did my head in. So that was my inspiration for, look, if people want a decent PMA, let's create one that actually works, that is legally and lawfully sound and can be proven to be such.
Yeah.
If I'm going to make the claim, I'm going to have the proof to back it up. And this is where a lot of people are falling down. They make some pretty wild and out there claims, and there's no proof to back it up.
Now, there was a pretty interesting claim come past, and it was in the My Self-Reliance chat on Telegram. And this is the first that I heard about it, was a video was posted there saying that a gentleman, Govinda, in Texas had done this amazing thing, such amazing thing. The first time, the most amazing thing since the birth of Christ was what the White Rabbit, quoting her, said, that everyone needs to pay attention to this because it was huge. And then right after that post, CJ in her wisdom posted your video just explaining maybe a little bit more detail about what went on there. So do you want to explain to people, so that a lot of people got excited about this announcement, and maybe this announcement wasn't it was more hype than it was real in the world. So do you want to just explain that?
Well, look, since putting out that video, which was only a few days ago, the internet has erupted, and there has been my phone, our emails, everything has been absolutely ballistic over that video. Now, a few people have reposted that video saying Zeva's debunked and called out Al Washington and Govinda Tidball, which was not the intention. My intention was to get some answers and ask these guys, hey, if you want to do your UCC stuff properly, this is another area I'm quite passionate about and well experienced on. I'd like to help you to do it better. There were, as I explained in that video, what I consider to be a few fatal flaws as far as proof of claim lacking to support these wild claims being made on that video that you're referring to, as to why I felt compelled to make the video to explain some of the legal discrepancies around that, particularly with the UCC, which is, for you guys who don't know, the Uniform Commercial Code, being our uniform codes of commerce that literally govern commerce worldwide. And pretty much every country around the world uses these UCC terms, agreements, and codes for most terms of commerce everywhere. Now, I have been in this space for a very, very long time, and I dare say I've probably met many, many people who all claim to be experts on the UCC and know how to do it in the filings. And out of all these people that have met, more than 50, maybe even 100 over the last, say, 20 years, 99.9% of them are clueless and have no idea what they're doing with that system, how it works, how to file, how to lodge documents, or do any of this process properly. I've met two other guys in Australia who I'd confidently say actually get it to a degree where if I couldn't assist someone with the UCC, I would send them to one of these two because they actually do know how this works. And it is
Mm.
very rare to find anybody who has spent the time and research to study that, as it's shrouded in a lot of myth and BS and opinions and conjectures and all sorts of nasty crap online. So it's really important if you're going to play with something that is a very high level international commercial law. One, we fully comprehend what those codes are, sorry, how to do the filing, what the filing looks like, how to get your documents legalized or recognized in some way. So we do have proof of claim and some form of legal standing. And I couldn't find the UCC one from that video that was referred to, which is why I made our video asking where is the UCC one? And all these claims of public notices and unrebutted affidavits. Fantastic stuff Govinda's doing. And I said in my video, I don't want to take away from any of the good work that good people are trying to do. And I don't believe he's, how do I put it, intentionally trying to mislead anyone or give anyone false hope. I think it's just not as well educated as some people could be on how that UCC system works. And the claim, which is the other thing I took issue with over that 2-hour video, the claim of filing this magical UCC3, which is an amendment or an addendum to a UCC1. And my other question was, well, how are you amending or filing an addendum to something that there's no proof of the existence of? The filing numbers quoted for a UCC1 were incorrect or incomplete filing numbers. And even when I tried to fill in with 0s to 9 at the end to complete the series of numbers to qualify as a UCC1, no search records were found when I went through the UCC site. And it's very easy to do. Anyone can go on that Fortress website and do search by file number, punch in the number, and if there's any filing attached to it, it'll come up. But there was no records found. And for me, that was a massive hole. That seemed to be the foundational building block that a lot of the claims in that video were based on, and the proof just wasn't there. So the video I did wasn't designed as an attack or a discredit or a debunking. It was to get some answers. Because we got hammered with emails over that video of like, dude, have you seen this? You've got to watch this. And can we do it? Do you know what he's done? Do you understand what he's done? Do you get how this works? And so we started poking around to see, well, what did he do? How does it work? And what I uncovered was that I don't believe it was done as well as it could have been done to give it the proper legal standing to support such sensational claims.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it for everyone. He did it for himself to get his kid out of hospital without a birth certificate. It wasn't done for everyone else. That was the premise of why Govinda went down this road, was because he didn't want a birth certificate created for his kid, which he just had in the hospital without his consent, which they, apparently tried to do and went to do, and he wanted to reverse and return that by showing it was fraud. And we all know they're fraud.
Right.
We all know that that's the case with these birth certificates and the securities. And I'd like to think pretty much anyone on one of your calls tonight has come to listen to me is aware of how some of that at least works, Kelly. And that's what Govinda was trying to undo. But then it just turned into this sensational video that went nuts online. And then, we got between 30 and 50 emails asking questions about, can I explain how what he's done worked? And when I looked into it, I couldn't see how it does work because there were some serious flaws and holes in there. I've actually reached out to Cal and Govinda and said, get in touch. I'd actually like to help us to do this better. And
if he did it the right way, can you see how it could work if he'd filed certain things, or it just doesn't have the links to be able to go step to?
Look, how do you know it properly? If that was challenged in court, and if I was the devil's advocate, I'd be able to get around some of that. Now if I can find a way around it, someone from the other team can too. And this is sort of how I roll with doing legal matters is, can I beat it? Because if I can come up with a way to beat it, what's to say that someone else can't think what I've thought? Well, granted, not many people's heads work like mine, but still, if it's possible for me to think of, it's possible for someone else to think of, that's a hole that needs to be plugged.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel some of the stuff in that video. Don't get me wrong, what he's done was, the intentions of what he was doing was fantastic, but it didn't save humanity. It saved him and his kid from not having a birth certificate while making public knowledge of the fraud going on behind the birth certificates and the securities while not consenting to that being done. And yeah, look, the affidavit wasn't rebutted and all the rest of it, but all of that was reliant upon a UCC one that I couldn't find any existence of. And that's where the whole process for me fell apart. Yes, there's an unrebutted affidavit and a public notice and all of that. And there is some good info in some of that as well about what he's doing. But at the same time, the whole thing was built off a UCC filing, which isn't there. The UCC filing, the number quoted was actually a filing receipt with the Travis County Records Office, not a UCC filing. Because the UCC filing numbers is 4 numbers dash 3 numbers dash 4 numbers dash 1 number. And the filing numbers quoted were short on numbers and weren't in the correct thing. It was a receipt number for being lodged with the County Records Court, not a receipt or any proof of any UCC1. And for that to occur, it's got to be registered and filed correctly with the UCC, which is the fortress.wa gov site over in the States set up in Washington where all these records are kept. If the records aren't on file there, it doesn't matter what we're lodging with County Records Office or DFAT or Governor General or whatever people are doing here. That original filing relied upon is non-existent. That's what we, our prima facie evidence that we're backing everything else on. And this is
Right.
why I had issue with what was done, because so many people were, again, we got inundated with emails over that video to the point where I thought, I better go watch the video and see what they're on about. And it was 2 hours of alluding to this amazing thing he's done without actually showing us what the amazing thing was. So we actually went and did some of our own homework and started poking around on that. And I started looking up filing numbers. We contacted the Travis County Court and asked for records of what they sent. The video about that we did on that, guys, has gone nuts online. It won't be hard to find, and it's on our Telegram channel as well. Welcome, guys, to have a look at that again if you're watching that. It was not a debunking, an attack, or a discrediting. It was a what the, and we need some answers. And I say all through the video, if anyone can present with new information, I'm happy to change my mind. Someone reach out to me with some more info, because this is what we found and it doesn't add up to me.
And I hope that answers some questions for people who may be watching this on replay or in the room, who watched, the first video and maybe had those questions as well. And so save you getting some more emails about that, Zeb.
Well, that was part of the reason for doing the video was I was getting sick of all these emails about it, and it's like nobody's done their homework or looked into this. We've got one guy who's made a great video and and everyone's just taken it as gospel without doing any homework or research, and everyone around the world jumped on the bandwagon of how amazing is this. And again, no one asked the questions. It's the most important thing ever is ask the questions, guys. And no, everyone just went blindly accepted it for these claims without looking into it. Glad, Margot, someone didn't accept it blindly, but there weren't many that didn't do that. And it just upset me that there's people in the freedom community not doing things properly. There are people like myself and many others like myself who have been doing this for many, many years. Could have helped some of these guys to do it better and more correctly and properly with some solid legal standing that cannot be disputed or refuted. And again, if I could dispute or refute it, someone else can as well.
So I've got some questions coming through the chat I want to ask you, but I want people to use their emoji buttons, that if that conversation cleared anything up for anybody, give me a thumbs up with an emoji if you're in the chat. While people are doing that, I'll ask you the next question. So, okay, there's a question here from Karen. How do you protect your organization, your PMA, in the social media space? Do you need to?
PMAs and social media is a real tricky one because social media is public. So it's a very, very, very fine and narrow line or tightrope you've got to walk there. If you're promoting something there in the public, you need to be very careful how you go about doing that. And if you are promoting, say, the ABC, or we'll call it the XYZ Association, can't really promote too much about what's going on with that. And it's very hard to market a secret. Yes, I'm aware of this. It's a problem. But we need to be very, very careful as to how we do that. So that if you're promoting that, look, the XYZ Association can do some amazing stuff, you need to go here. Now, as long as you've got that stone wall when they go to the XYZ Association that says, hey, the XYZ Association is a project, or could be the ABC, whatever you want to call it. It's a project of a non-government organisation or a not-for-profit unincorporated association. And to access the services of the website, you need to become a member first. So no one can get through this brick wall to see
Yeah.
what's going on there until they're once they're a member. Well, you're over here with me in the private now. Now we can talk about good services or other things of value which might be exchanged for other things of value on some sort of equitable terms.
Well,
But
let's use the Freedom Summit as an example of that, right?
yeah,
Because that's something that's really in the public domain. And people do need to know what they're getting when they buy a ticket to some degree. So, as a PMA, if my self-reliance is, taking that step to become a PMA, what things,
you,
do you say and do you not say?
right, you can promote some of what you're doing on there, like on social media and on Facebook and all, as long as you've got some sort of disclaimer on there, Kelly, that says this is only for our private members.
Mm-hmm.
Before you can purchase a ticket, you need to become a member. You can't have the membership or stuff as part of the ticket because you've just done trade with the public. You've just done all the good work of the PMA. You've mixed the public and private highways. They've crossed. Yeah. So it's like for further information, go to the website and become a member. So you can do your little snippets of what goes on there, but if you're looking for more, you need to come here. Thank you, CJ. Just disclaimer CJ's put in the chat there. So that's how we go about doing that. You can promote that in the public. When people go to actually look at it, it's just a brick wall.
Uh-huh.
Thou shalt not pass. You need to become a member to access it. And once you're a member, then it's a whole different story. So you can engage with the public on behalf of your PMA to say, hey, look, we've got this great event coming up, it's called My Self-Reliance, and these are some of the things you can do there. But to get a ticket or be a part of it, you're going to need to become a member first.
Oh, and they should become a member because you get discounts when you're a member. So,
Well, you can let them know that too. And look, some people have, like we do, we've got free membership for Warwick Law, and you can upgrade that to premium. At the end of the day, it's your PMA. If you want to have 12 different layers of membership, that's up to you. You can do that. Yep. So you can do the initial membership. I often say that's for free. Once you come into that, yep, you're a member. Now, if you want to upgrade your membership, you get discounts, you get free this, whatever else. You get access to other benefits, goods, services, or other things of value that we wish to exchange with our members.
okay, I don't know if you can answer this one, but Peter asked, how can we protect our facial image and voice from digital identity theft?
Stay off digital. If it's digital, it's not safe, guys. I don't care what anyone tells you. There's a digital record of it. It's going to get used for something. So stay off the digital stuff is the only real way to protect that. You can put copyrights and stuff over it, but we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes with all that. We don't have access to that side of digital tech or information. So it's very, very difficult to do so. I recommend growing a decent beard, wearing sunnies and a hat. That's a good start. Wear some sort of, something, big ass sunnies, whatever, to cover, to mess with the facial recognition, and a hat of some description. If you're going areas where there's lots of cameras and there's cameras like shopping centres, parts of the Gold Coast, any CBD area, there's going to be 1,000 cameras there, guys. You're going to be on film somewhere. So bear that in mind. Makeup for the ladies, beards for the blokes, big glasses, hats, whatever. It's just it's there. The tech's already being rolled out. The cameras are in. Until we get like they're having in the UK where they're going around pulling all the cameras down, which Aussies just seem too apathetic to do anything like that. And I'm not encouraging that. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not encouraging it publicly either. Just saying it's just the way things are in today's day and age. And if it's digital, it's not safe or secure, because if you really want to get into something digitally, there are some very talented hackers and IT workers out there that can get around anything digitally. So at the end of the day, if it's digital, it's just not safe. If you don't want your images used, one, don't go places where there's lots of cameras, or different makeup, masks, face paint, big hat, large glasses, mess with what the cameras and the AI can pick up on.
Okay, next question. Do you know anyone in Australia working with families around not registering their newborns with a birth certificate and still getting a passport?
We've got a few of our members currently doing this, and some of them it's been 6 months or more of back and forward with DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and the Passport Office, depending on which office we're challenging on that as to what information and feedback we're getting. It was a couple of years back a lot easier to do. We have been assisting a few people with that, and again, we're getting different responses depending on which DFAT office they're attempting to do that through. And as they come back with one argument, we beat that. They come back with another one, we beat that. They come back with another one, we beat that. It's a constant game of just back and forward. DFAT, oh, well, your application's incomplete. We're going to close the application. No, we don't agree to that. We need further and better. And so it's a very, very long haul. I'd say, 3 to 5 years ago, I helped a few people do that, maybe even longer, and it was quite a simple, straightforward process with affidavits, etc. But DFAT are really cracking down because more and more people are trying to do that to attain a passport in order to do so. There is the World Passport thing from the citizengov.org mob, but their passports are not as well recognised as they used to be back in the day. Can be used for some form of photo ID still. You have to see how you go. The questionnaires and info they need is getting stricter as well to issue a passport without a birth certificate from them too. So it's getting more and more tricky to do. It is possible, but it's a lot of time and effort. Let's say that a lot of back and forward with DFAT. It really depends which DFAT office you're going through.
Okay, I hope that helped answer your question. Casey asked, I've heard that Australia-US free trade agreement is the argument as to why UCC can be valid here in Australia, but does it, now it's the way of being able to read the rest of that sentence, but does it not come down to the jurisdiction of the contract that it can be used? Trying to get my head around how UCC is valid here in Australia.
All right, Katie. So yes, the AUS-FTA, otherwise referred to as the Australia-US Free Trade Agreement, is one of the ways that we can use that here. Also, our contract law, we have a private contract in play. And under the terms of the AUS-FTA, Aussies can do business on American soil as though they're on Australian soil and vice versa. And that free trade agreement's been codified into various pieces and sections of our federal legislation. So that is one of my great ways of making that work. We did used to have the argument too, the place of registration is a jurisdiction we come under pursuant to High Court case law, like our Queensland Rail case of the 8th of April 2015. In recent times, though, the Commonwealth of Australia, when you do a lookup on the SEC, is not showing up with a CIK or a central index key number anymore. Because previously part of the argument was, well, the Commonwealth of Australia is registered in Washington. That's its place of business or address as the company or corporation. Therefore, we're in the same jurisdiction because we're registered in the same place. Now, under the terms of the AUS-FTA, yes, we need some sort of Australian counterpart. And in doing that, KC1, it's really important that we get all the UCC docs created and filed correctly and attached to an affidavit. The affidavit is the really important document. Everyone focuses on the UCC1 financial filing statement. The affidavit's the kicker because the UCC1 is going to be attached to that affidavit as one document or bound, in which case it will be unrebutted along with the terms of our affidavit and our copyright security and private and hold harmless and other documents too. So when we do a UCC for someone, just so you know, Casey, about that, there's actually 9 documents you finish up with when we're done. One of those is the UCC1 financial filing statement, but you need all the other stuff to go with to show the process has been done properly. And even in America, where the UCCs originate, they often get voided if the debtor was not notified and or agreed or consented to what we've done. So we have to be able to show proof of claim that this process has been done correctly, paperwork correctly, and those have been filed and registered with the UCC, so it's on record there to be verified. But we need it signed and stamped off on here. Do have some clever tricks as to how to get around that for you guys looking at doing a UCC with us. There is a fair bit to learn as to how to do that correctly. It took me many years to get my head around this before I was even game to do one for myself. Since doing them for myself, I've updated and terminated and redone my own filings a few times as I've learnt more. Pretty happy with the current one that I have in there now. And that current one, I've actually registered my car, which I refer to as my vessel in dry dock under. My number plates literally say UCC with my registration number, which is the UCC filing number, and it just says private, vessel and dry dock, UCC 1-308. Now, the Uniform Commercial Code of 1-308 is basically all rights reserved, just in commercial terms. And I've had those plates on my car now for 2.5, nearly 3 years with no dramas or issues. So when it's done correctly and you can demonstrate that, yes, we are competent to manage our own affairs, I haven't had any issues. I've been through a couple of RBTs, I've dealt with a couple of nasty coppers, and before I could even get my phone out to record it, they've told me bugger off.
Yeah. And that's when you know you've done it right, and that's true freedom.
This is something else I say to many of our members, and I've said this for many years to many people too, Kelly. One, we need the knowledge to back up the documents, and two, we need the documents to back up the knowledge. We must have proof of claim, and we must be able to articulate that. So if you're doing something which is very high level and complex side of commercial law, like the UCC, before relying upon or using those documents, they've got to go through all the steps and processes after filing to get them legal. And then we need to be intimately acquainted with every word, term, and phrase and the legality of in those documents. And until you're 100% comprehensive of any word, term, or phrase used in the document, I don't care whose documents you're using and for what purpose, guys. Until we're at that stage where we're that intimately acquainted with the docs, don't use the documents. Because if you get questioned or challenged on them and you don't know what you're doing, again, you've just demonstrated you're not competent to manage your own affairs. You're one of them sovereign citizen idiots that downloaded off the internet and went, but look, I've got magic papers here. You don't know or comprehend how and why they work, and you can't articulate that. You're going to get ignored and steamrolled. And this is what we see happen to many people. But I've got these great documents from this mob or from Zev or from wherever, but they've got no idea what's in them or how to articulate that or how to have any legal standing or basis off those particular documents they're relying upon. This is where people are coming undone.
Well, and I always like to say it's like having the lightsaber without learning how to become the Jedi Knight. You probably got to chop your own legs off.
Yeah, it's a big problem. So, yes, we've got to know what we're doing. I liken it to putting someone on the firing range without any firearm training. It's not going to go well.
Yeah, dangerous. Dangerous. I have one more question, and then I think we need to make some announcements. We got some cool announcements to make. And because tonight is just absolutely flown. And we've jumped around a little bit. So sorry, guys. It could have been nice if we did all the PMA questions together and all the UCC questions together, but it hasn't gone that way.
Right, keeps me on my page this way, Kelly. All good.
So Michelle asked, if you want to put your organization or business under a PMA and take online payments like Stripe, you'll need an ABN. But if an ABN application wants an individual TSN,
you can get around the use of an ABN with Stripe. It's just not easy to do, but can be.
So what, do you need paperwork for that? Do you need...
So do you want to unmute yourself, CJ? You've dealt with this.
Yes, sure. So when you apply for an online payment gateway, you do have to realise, of course, it is a public system, and payment gateways only have their licence by doing KYC in whatever country that you're operating in. So Stripe, for example, has licences and registrations in hundreds of countries. When a private membership association applies for a Stripe gateway account, the option to upload PMA documents is not there. So you click Other, you click Verification. The paperwork, Kelly, that's needed is the Articles of Association, and you need to make sure that you do have bylaws that include public payment gateways and international banking regulations. That's very important. Then you'll upload those. They will ask for further particulars. So this is where the private space, there's no instant gratification. There's no automation, right? We need to just stop, breathe, and go, right, we need to speak to someone. So this is where we would then speak to a live, Stripe helper. And that's where we explain we're a non-profit, non-government, unincorporated association. We've already uploaded our articles. We then upload a set of minutes, which are very specific to the projects that we're doing. And on top of that, we then can also upload the ATO statement by supplier. So that's why this is not an automated process. We do need to do it manually, but it does work. Now, the thing is, they still do require KYC. You still need to upload. One of the founding members will have to nominate themselves, probably the treasurer. They'll put their name. They will have to provide a driving license or passport. Now, in a well-written PMA, it's not about I, it's about we. So we don't want responsibility just going on to the individual. Now, if any time, now obviously a public payment gateway, high level of responsibility, they will report to whatever country they're in, the IRS, Inland Revenue, or the ATO. When they do report, if at any time over the years it is questioned that the income coming in, oh, is that, say the treasurer is Joe Smith, is it Joe Smith's personal income? If that ever happened, it's very rare, but if it did happen, we have the paperwork to back up to say, no, that was just the treasurer of the association, and those dollars are actually contributions and membership fees in exchange for receiving membership benefits. Does that make sense?
It's not personal income, because otherwise they'll try and Stripe will record it or report it to the ATO as Kelly's personal income, for example, when it's not. And there are clauses we've included in the PMA that specifically say that this is not the case. So that when asked again proof of claim, when they say, well, how do we know that's the case? Well, here you go. Here's the documents that prove that. We've got proof of claim. Do you have any proof of your claim that it's now Kelly's personal income as opposed to what we're saying it is? And they go, well, no, we don't. Well, we have proof then. Whose claim's going to get listened to? The one that they have the proof for.
Yeah, really well explained. Thank you, CJ. That was great. And something that, businesses like mine will need to work that out. If anyone else in the chat has gone from a business into a PMA and have worked out those things, it'd be, give me a thumbs up. Lovely to.
I think one of the big things with what we do in this private space, Kelly, CJ and I walk our talk, we live it. We both own private associations, organisations, being involved with community non-profit groups for a very long time. So we're walking our talk. It's a lifestyle choice for me. It's not something I take on when I get a fine or the government comes knocking at the door. It's a lifestyle choice. This is a 24/7 thing for us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, a lot of people are saying well explained. Thanks, CJ. Okay, so it's come to that time of night where we want to share with you all some of the things that are happening in the pipeline. So before I get to that, we did have a count up of the votes. 23 people said that they are voting this weekend, and 26 said that they're not, as a rough count for the, so that's really interesting.
You don't need to answer me.
Which way we're going with that. So guys, sorry if you've put a question in and I haven't got to it tonight. Really appreciate everyone's input, and there's a lot going on in the chat, so I might have missed it. But I know that CJ's in there responding and letting you know how that she can help. Okay, Tony also said that's 27. 27 for no votes. So thanks, CJ, for that. So I will take this there. Please send your questions, admin@warrior@law.com. Zev and CJ will answer all your questions. And I know that you do this regularly on your channels as well, Zev. So, but thanks to everyone jumping on tonight. Now, we do have some opportunities where you can see Zev in person this year. The first being to do with me anyway. You might have your own things going on. But in the 25th of October, we will have Zev speak at our Freedom Summit, the Self-Reliance Freedom Summit that runs from the 24th to the 26th of October. And so you'll be able to come along and hear Zev speak. So tickets go on sale for that on the 1st. So in 2 days' time, you'll be able to grab your tickets, and there's early bird tickets for the next 2 months. So you want to grab an early bird ticket and save some money. And And so we will be releasing some of our highlight speakers as we go along, but we can definitely say Zev will be there and you'll be able to see him in person.
Last year's Freedom Summit, really awesome event, some very good speakers, some great stalls, very, very different way of doing things, very close-knit, family-minded, community vibe there, very laid back and chilled. And I think JD's on. I saw one of his posts in here, so we'll have JD there hopefully again this year as well, mate. And we might actually do a proper whipping workshop after everyone wanting to come and have a play when we started that last year. So
Yeah, get the whips out. That was super fun.
Because everyone seemed to really enjoy doing that. Everyone goes, I don't know how, and within a couple of minutes they're able to learn, and everyone was, quite excited that I can do it now. So I think we'll definitely have to include that for this year's coming one, Kelly, is some time for a whip workshop if JD's got a couple of extra ones made by then.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. Somebody asked, where is the Freedom Summit? It's held in Penthurst. It's on the outskirts northwest of Sydney. And there's camping on site that's included in your ticket. And so you can come and hang out there for a couple of days. The Friday night, we usually have a potluck dinner. So everyone, and it is a family vibe. It's very, as I love that Zev said, very laid back. It's not like probably anything that you've been to before where, you rock up and you do your thing and you stick to yourself, and you really actually come away with this experience of unity, of community. That's and the theme this year is community reliance is everything. So yes, we'd love to have you all there. The second night we usually have a barn dance, and that's super fun as well. It's a really great way of meeting people and getting around and really just, it's such a wholesome weekend, and you just bring your family and connect with others. The second opportunity that you can come along and hear Zev live and do a deep dive. So tonight, there's a lot of you in the room who know a lot more than I do around PMAs and UCCs. Well, you have an opportunity to take it one step further and deepen your understanding at we're going to hold a retreat, a warrior law retreat, and that'll be the 25th to the 27th of November, so a month later. And that will be at my place. We have glamping tents available with ensuite, so it's really luxury glamping. But we're going to tier that. So we're just in the early stages of planning this event. So if it's something that you would like to do is come and glamp or camp or bring your RV, then let us know. You can put it in the chat or send us a text message. And so it'll be limited numbers. It's really only going to be, the first 30 people.
Limited numbers, guys. We don't have a lot of space on Kelly's property for that, and it's going to be a 2-day intensive. It's going to be a big one. A lot of information. We will record it. Everyone coming will get a copy of recording and the information that we go over on there. But it's going to be a 2-day intensive deep dive. So, how do I put this politely? Not for the faint-hearted. And if you're very, very new and a beginner to this, you might want to skip this one, do some learning prior to. As we're going to be covering a lot of the stuff from my workshops that I've done, run through all of that, and some extra goodies, and of course some Q&A for the random questions that we always get allowed based on all of that too. So looking at the moment at maybe 6 or 7 couple of hour workshops over a 2-day period. So there's going to be a lot of info dropped, and it's going to be a deep dive down the rabbit hole 2-day intensive in a great location with great people.
Oh, it's a beautiful location. We are an hour north of Newcastle. And so once you get here, you just don't want to leave. It's just beautiful. And so we have some glamping things on site, the mineral pool, the hot tub, the pool table and darts, and you just chill out the whole weekend in amongst learning. But what I want to say about that is if you are interested in knowing more about that, and we haven't put prices out or released tickets or anything like that, do put your email address in the chat, because that's the only way that I'll be able to stay in touch with you and give you information about that. So yeah, pop your email address in and we'll put out more information. So did anything else you want to say about that, CJ? Did we miss anything? The dates. People want to know the dates. Are they in the chat? So the summit, the My Self-Reliance Freedom Summit, is the 24th to the 26th of October in Kenthurst. And then the Warrior at Law Retreat is the next month in Warranalla, which is halfway between Bulahdelah and Gloucester. So it's an hour north of Newcastle. And we'd love to have you along. CJ is going to put the dates in there. I think they are the 25th and 26th of November. Is that right, CJ?
Yeah, I think so.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thanks everyone for jumping in tonight. We hope that we've answered, the 25th, the 26th of November. That's perfect. Hope we've answered your questions. And of course, there's unlimited number of questions we could ask them. So thanks everyone for joining us. We do have a huge lineup of speakers coming to the next month. If I can just share with you, next week we have Alan Simpson, who's going to be talking about frequency and how it affects your body. The next, on the 13th of May, we have Dan Kittredge, and he's from the USA. So this is our first kind of non-Australian interview that we're doing, talking about the soil and regeneration and health to your body. On the 20th of May, by popular request, we had Leanne Shelton coming to talk to us about AI and about a human approach to AI. So a lot of people are about, I don't know about this AI business. We're going to ask her all the deep questions about that. And then to round up the end of May, on the 27th, we're actually having Bill Chambers speak. And he is Casey Chambers' dad. He's still singing and playing and touring. And he's been a fan of the channel for a few years now. And so we've been staying in touch. And I said, why don't you come along and we'll get to know Bill. And that'll be the 27th of May, and it's always a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Some really great people coming along, and so thank you, Zev, for being here, and CJ, and answering all our questions. You've been amazing.
Oh, look, thank you for the invite and coming on, and look for getting this out to some of our community and your community. Hopefully, we all be the one community, and it's move forward together on this one. Hopefully, everyone on the call comes to the summit event as well.
Yes, get your early bird tickets. We really love to have you along. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Scully.